Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Across the Pond, an international movie screening and post-movie discussion. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this powerful event as we cross the Atlantic Ocean to watch Amani, the film, and lead a global discussion and conversation about youth development. Young people and positive youth development advocates from all over the world have joined us as we view the powerful film Amani and participate in a global conversation with the film producer, Amani Simpson, from London, and who is an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, and youth activist. And we will participate in a global conversation with the film producer that acknowledges, respects, and affirms the wealth and knowledge that exists in all young people. I'm Mustafa Madyoun, who, along with Olivia Hart, are here to provide our youth development expertise and serve as guest moderators for the discussion following the film Amani. I'm a youth development and adult education leader and facilitator of a nationally recognized advancing youth development curriculum for youth workers. I have extensive experience working with young people as an educator and youth development practitioner. I've trained over 5,000 youth program professionals over the past 20 years for various agencies, schools, social services, youth justice and recreation, community-based organizations, etc. I have a master's from Clemson University in youth development leadership. I have a master's in adult education and theater arts, bachelor's from the University of District of Columbia. My co-moderator, Olivia, will introduce herself, and then our esteemed presenter, Amani Simpson.
So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Olivia Hart, and first and foremost, I have to do it. I am a proud Bison, which means I am a graduate of Howard University, where I earned degrees in Afro-American Studies and Political Science. So shout out to the Afro-American Studies Department and Equality to Race Society at Howard University, as well as ASCAC, which is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. But the reason why I'm here today is because I am also a youth development leader at the University of the District of Columbia, where I create and implement programs, projects, and initiatives to establish and sustain positive youth development efforts in Washington, D.C. I want to thank Amani Simpson and Aviard Inspires, as well as Diane Riney and her team over at Naked Truth PR Limited for making it possible for us to even be here today. So without further ado, I will now hand everything over to Amani Simpson.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Olivia. We've got here. We managed to do it. This is it's an honor to be able to share the platform with you. I want to big up all the people from the States as well, and also those from London and the UK that have joined in. So I'm going to walk you guys through my journey. I'm going to share my story and really try and get into the steps that have made me into the man that I am today. We're also going to watch the short film as well, Amani, that many of you will already know, but I'm hoping that those that don't know, you guys are in for whirlwind and a roller coaster. So I'm just going to get my slides up. Are we good? Perfect. So I always start my story with a picture of me. And I think it's quite fitting, as today we're going to be speaking about youth development, that we start with a picture of me as a baby. So my upbringing was really good. It was a loving household. My mum and dad, who I think are actually watching right now, hi mum, hi dad, they did their best. And I pay homage to the hard work that they put in to give me and my sister the best platform to develop. So here's a picture of my mom and my dad, and just a little bit more background about us as a family. So my mom and dad named me Amani, which means peace in Swahili, strength in Ugandan, and aspiration in Arabic. And I guess my parents, being Black British, and my dad was actually from Jamaica, their experience was very unique. It was one of hard work, of graft, of trying to move away from particular environments, and they did really well. They moved us out to a nice area in North London, and again, as I said, they gave me the best type of start, the really loving environment you can see from the pictures. But I think it didn't necessarily prepare me for the school system. I think that's the best way to to put it, and to be fair, because the school system isn't always very loving or caring to young people that have potential, whether that be from the peers, whether that be from the teachers, whatever that might be. So I look at the environment that I came from and say, you know what, I wish that every young person has that, but then how can we support them as they begin to move into the school system to make sure that they get that full wraparound care so that they don't go down some of the paths that I came from. So my story really is about, how a young man can go from such a loving environment, such a great start, to being quite an angry and disruptive young teenager and making choices that, I'm definitely not proud of. But have, I guess, molded me into the man that you see here today. So it's all about life-defining moments. It's all about the small, seemingly unimportant things that, have really developed me as the man that you see here today. And the first one was primary school. I remember we moved from a school that was in an area called Tottenham, North London, which was, I guess, a prep school, really kind of, I guess, nice environment, I guess, probably a little bit more comforting and supporting, smaller classrooms, to a more multicultural public school in Edmonton, North London. And being in that school in year one, the first year, I was 5 years old, I remember kind of walking into the classroom and being excited. I'm sure my parents will have pictures of me smiling and excited in my uniform. But when I walked into school, I wasn't really met with a lot of, love or kind of positive feelings. I think, maybe a few people were nice, but generally I didn't really fit in with those young people for various different reasons. Maybe it was because of the self-esteem that I had, or because of the loving environment. And slowly little things used to just eat away at my character, whether that be, not really having that many friends to play with at the playtime, or whether that be, inviting people to my birthday parties and them not turning up, or, telling someone my kind of feelings and then people laughing and teasing me. And I remember a significant incident in the first couple of months of school where I was drinking from the water fountain in the playground. And this older boy, the bell had just gone, and this older boy had basically said, "Hurry up." And he, being naive and a child, I didn't really understand the passion that he was saying "hurry up" with. And so I kind of said, "Oh, I'll be a minute." And he said, "What?" And he grabbed my head and he smashed it off the side of the water fountain. And that, to me, as I said, is a life-defining moment, because after that does something to you. You don't want that to happen again. And you begin to do everything in your power in order to try and stop that happening again. And so I think I begun to misbehave in various different ways. And one of the things that happened, and me and my mum were speaking about it recently, is that I actually got excluded quite early in my school. So they suspended me. I think I was maybe 6 or 7, something like that. And basically what happened is I was playing in the playground, and this little girl that I personally think had a crush on me walked across the playground and proceeded to pick up my marbles and throw them out of the school gate. And by throwing them out of the school gate, my reaction was to stand up and kick her. And that was probably frustration of not really having anyone to play with at the time, her obviously throwing my marbles out. But that then proceeded to me getting excluded or suspended from school. And my mum was very active in the school. She was one of the treasurers for the school. So you can only imagine what it was like for her to be in the governor's meeting or to walk through the playground as such a high kind of profile individual within the school, and having a son that was, really beginning to misbehave and kind of build a reputation for himself in the school. Another thing in primary school was football, or soccer, as you guys will call it in America. And it was one of those things that I was never really very good at. Never really very good at football. And I look at this as another moment, because the thing about playing team sports is that you really want to be kind of high ranked as a player. You want people to say, yeah, we want you on our team because you add value to our team. And I never had that. And I think I just, again, kind of locked into my mind this idea that I was going to be a good footballer and I was going to make people like me for football. And so therefore neglected all the other strengths and attributes that I may have had trying to become the greatest footballer. And so these types of attitudes and these types of behavior, calling out in class, lying about things to try and get out of trouble, all of these things just followed me as I went through the primary school system to the point where I got to secondary school. And by the time I'm in secondary school, these are embedded into who I am. These are embedded into my character, into my choices, into the way that I guess I reason. And I've gone to quite a nice school in Enfield. It's a boys' school, a grammar school. And really, it should have been a fresh start. But I went to school with a lot of the young men that had been in my class or in the class next to me. And so I couldn't really change the way people saw me. And I guess looking back in hindsight, a lot of these things really just followed me as I begun to start in the first year of school. And, you know, I won't ruin the film because at this point I'm going to begin to move towards the movie so you guys can actually watch it for yourself. But I think I just wanted to set the tone. I just wanted to set the tone for you guys before we watch the movie and allow you to kind of get into the kind of mind frame that I had and some of the things that you're going to see in the movie. And also as well, on top of that, I wanted to kind of contextualize it in terms of location. So I know we have a lot of guests over here from on the webinar from the States. So at the same time that this is going on, this album came out. And you guys will know Get Rich or Die Trying, quite a prominent album when I was growing up in school. And I wanted to be like 50 Cent because all my peers wanted to be like 50 Cent. You know, we were listening to gangster rap and we were beginning to assimilate and try and be like that. And the reason I've got pictures of Edmonton Green and Bouncers Road is because this is kind of like the hood for me. This is where my primary school was. This is where a lot of my friends were from. And there was this kind of attraction to Edmonton Green that went hand in hand with the lifestyle that 50 Cent was portraying. And every single day I'd come into school and I'd hear stories about different beefs that were happening in Edmonton. And me living in the suburbs, I had no understanding of what that was. And it sounded super attractive. So I begun to change my character to try and fit in and put on this mask every day in order to just try and get involved in these conversations and know who the top people were and know who was scoring the most points against the opposition and all of these different things. And again, as I said, I'm just giving you context so that when you watch this movie, you guys understand where I'm coming from. So the film that you're going to watch is called Amani. It stars actor Javan Wade, who you might have seen before in Doom Patrol, which is doing really well in the States, in the first Purge movie, which again did very well in the States. And it's a you know, a very impactful film. It's going to probably shock some of you because the content is very it's very real. You know, we made it with the intention of being very impactful and real. So it's about 20 minutes, and when we finished, I'll then wrap up and let you know where I'm at right now and do some Q&As with Mustafa and Olivia. So thank you for listening so far and enjoy the movie.
Son, listen, this is such an opportunity for you. Fresh start.
New school, new friends.
Do you think they have an orchestra I can join?
Absolutely, son. You would be amazing in there.
Hey, let me see my
Look
boy.
at our boy.
Boom! Look at you. I'm
Big man
so
now.
proud of you. You're so smart today. You're proud of him, innit?
I'm so
Look
proud
at
of
my
you.
boy. He's going to same school. But you're not doing these ties a big man thing,
That's-
isn't it? It's a big
We've got to do a selfie then.
Yeah.
Selfie, no, I love a
not the
selfie.
selfie moment. You and these selfie moments.
Love a selfie.
Smile.
Good, excellent. All right, you're nearly there.
So let me see this again. It's a little bit more orange in it.
Good.
Good? Looking good?
You all right, son? You all right? I'm on.
Amani?
You okay?
Amani?
God's got me, yeah? So how did I get here? Because I'm laying down on my deathbed and I heard what the end said. There's only two ways. You either fly or you end up dead.
God's got you. God's got you.
No thanks to you. I cried out for you like Mum always told me to, but you weren't there. What kind of God would allow us to go through so much pain?
Amani.
I always heard the rules on the roads that it's kill or be killed, but I ain't with it.
Amani.
So why should I believe in you if my faith is in vain? Man, I prayed every day.
I promise you he's not going.
I went to church with my family. I always gave to the poor. This weren't part of my plan, so why'd you punish me for? Why should I give you any more? This battle back and forth, but you choose to ignore my prayers daily. Mum says pray for your food, thank the Father, be grateful for the fact that he saved me. Yeah, I can pray for my food, but I'm stabbed with a wound because you didn't rape me. Now, I'm about to die. This is when you should be sending your angels to save me, but I'll be singing to the choir because God knows you ain't been there for me lately. Where were you when I started that school? I was so excited for a new start, but I sat alone on my own and couldn't make any real friends. Huh, God? I just needed that one decent person to keep me company, to comfort me as I learned to be a man.
30.
Everyone else had a best friend, but I'm sat there on my own because no one gives a damn. So I caged up. Started acting up at school. I had so much rage stuck inside, fighting hard to get loose, and where were my angels? Where was my help to stand? I wasn't a bad kid, but you ignored me when you could have been holding my hand.
Give me my bag back now. Give me my bag back now. Give me my bag back now. Give me my bag back now.
So come on, who's going to talk?
When I started to change and fit in with their crew, I didn't know who I was. But making them laugh didn't work, man. Let's face it. It was for all of them girls. But when I look back, I never would have tried it if I'd known I'd get expelled. Why didn't you guide me to the right path? Could have lived a nice life with a nice wife and my dream car. Running my own business and minding it too.
I mean no tricking out, meaning if it's London, it's on stay looking out on site gas, so it's fire, no cooking out. Run, you say no bolting.
This is the third time this week that Mr. Johnson's called me. I'm sick of your behaviour. Give me your phone.
Why would I give you my
Give me your phone. This is not up for discussion. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to act like that, you don't deserve your phone. Now, give me your phone.
Amani? 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 Amani! What?
But instead, I'm on this bed reciting my last prayers to you. All them times I sat in your churches, singing. But where was your grace for me? Honor thy mother and father, yet you forget your own family. When were you planning to save me? Where were you when I did my first robbery? We took that kid's phone and made him jump up and down, and man, he looked like a clown.
Hey, you not a pig, yo. Hey, what? Hey, chill. It weren't me, man. Are you mad, fam? It wasn't me, Amani, man.
Hey, who was it?
Who was it? It was Amani.
Where's
man.
Amani?
I know where he lives.
Hey, where does he live?
lives round there, man. Let go, man.
I can't believe he snitched and told them where I lived. Now his brother's there and only mum's at the crib.
We're gonna have a few shots.
I say no more.
Say nothing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to scare his brother a little bit. I wasn't going to use it. Why don't you stop my mum from finding it in my room?
Amani! What is that?
I tried to take the gun back, but my boy wasn't home.
Mom!
And when I got back, no one answered the door or the phone. Mum was so mad that she struggled to breathe. I tried to convince them and put her at ease, and they didn't even help me when the neighbors called the police.
Open the door! Mom! What's this? What's this? Huh?
On their own son. What kind of love is that from my dad and mum? I've never been so scared, God. But you obviously didn't care, God. I was 15 years old. 15! I spent a night in that cold police cell. Judge told me I could have gone to jail for 7 years, you know. And that's 7 years after bail. Community service what? Community service who? You could have helped me bust case if you wanted me to, but you weren't there. You let my parents send me to that care home. You knew the type of things that I'd see. I had all the freedom in the world, but nothing I aspired to be. You left me isolated. Let me meet that older when my mind was jaded. He told me come Cunch, make some serious cash. Selling heroin to addicts, now I'm wrapping up crack.
Hey, we were Aldi. Aldi. Yeah, you stay there, blood. You stay there. There's only 2 ways out in that, blood. You stay there.
So I jumped on the grind, hiding rocks in my mouth. Looking shots round town till I had the keys to a house.
Yo, man, pull up, ain't talking a reload. Bust doors, no need for a key though. Man, I take aim, but this ain't a free throw. No, man, I'm busting if you're coming at me though. Busting if you're coming at me though. Busting if you're coming at me though. Man, I take aim, no free throw. No, man, I'm busting if you're coming at me though. Man, pull up, ain't talking a reload. Bust doors, no need for a key though. Man, I take aim, but this ain't a free throw. No, man, I'm busting if you're coming at me though. Busting if you're coming at me though. Busting if you're coming at me though. Man, I take aim, no free throw. No, man, I'm busting if you're coming at me though. Busting if you're coming at my head though.
But that freedom wasn't real. So many dangers to avoid. I was moving like the man, but inside I was still a boy. I guess that life wasn't for me, man. My heart wasn't in it. Trust me, you can fake being bad because I tried to wing it. I started reflecting on the man I wanted to be. I soon saw there was no future for the life I was trying to lead. I needed a change of surroundings to follow a new path. So I took a leap of faith in search of a fresh start.
Dad. It's Amani.
I headed back to London with my head hung low. Mum and Dad gave me a second chance, an opportunity to grow, and I was grateful. We laid all our cards on the table.
You've got way too much potential.
Yeah, I hear you, Dad. I'm willing to make the sacrifices to stay out of trouble, and I did my best. I started again with a brand new mind, listening to leaders. I found a real passion of mine. Studied all the greats. Became who I wanted to be. Separated from the crowd because they weren't real friends for me. I started a property business. Bear calls every day. Hearing no set me back, but it didn't stand in my way. I find a route around it. There was no doubt about it. Hit the phone till I found it, and my reward was the houses. I found a beautiful girl. Great mum for my kids. She helped me become a better man. Picked me up when I slipped. ever heard? Early birds catch the most worms. So I managed my time and I learned to fly on my own terms. Good daily disciplines was the key to all of my wins. I took everything I knew and I used it to get me in. Any door. I remember my mentor always said that when you get knocked down, never get too comfortable on the ground. I practiced that and it taught me something. To believe in myself and to always keep fighting. I even started to rebuild with my family. Things were going so well, God. Till you let that brother stab me.
Do you remember that woman that was talking about how she'd never buy a two-bed?
Yeah.
Well, guess who just sold the first house?
Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I said in the beginning that you'd be able to do it.
No, we just sold our first house. Hey, Ash, one sec.
Amani.
It's money, bro. Hey, man, leave him alone, man. Shut up, fam. Who's that, bro? You call him man, them? Who's your man, them? I ain't got time for these games, man.
What do you think this is a game, bro? What's your name, bro? Yeah, what's your name then, fam? Don't screw my youngie like that for I'll whack you in your face, blood. What's your name, bro? Yeah, what's your name, fam?
I'm a bigger man for you, you know.
And what?
This guy's getting cheeky, you know.
You're a bigger man for me, though, blood. But bigger man. What's your name, bruv?
Oh, you want to know my name?
I just want to know who's moving through the...
Amani, blood. What? Move.
Amani. Me, no, Yo, get off. Why are you raising your voice, fam? Amani, yeah? I thought you looked familiar, you know. You're chatting about bullying people. When you that robbed my brother back in the day, you pagan.
Come on, man. Who's your little brother?
What? Cadell, blood. Tell man you don't remember Cadell. Little Cadell.
That was years ago, big man.
Bruv, man think that makes a difference, bruv. It could have been 20 years ago, bruv. You robbed my little brother, and listen, man's still mad because of that, blood.
Stop holding my head.
Or what, rude boy? I will whack you in your face now, rude boy. What? You mad? I'm mad.
Is this your son? Is this your son?
I promise you, love, he won't.
Amani.
He's not leaving.
Amani.
I promise you.
You mad, cuz? What, my brother, yeah? You punch me, yeah? That's enough. Get off him. Rest in peace, rude boy.
I don't know if you're real, God. Will I restart in this place or see your face in a real God? What I do know is that I find it hard to believe, but I'm tired of failing and tripping up over my feet. I'm not ready to leave. Please give me another chance to achieve and succeed because I haven't finished becoming the man that I wanted to be. I've never been married. I'll never have a son. I'll never have the opportunity to give back to my mum. Do you know how much that kills me? Another RIP t-shirt. Another waste of potential. Have the whole borough at my funeral, not because they love me, but because it's essential. I don't want it. I'll never leave a legacy now. What would they say about me? Another troubled young man with no uni degree, left out to die on these cold London streets. And that's facts. No, I don't accept that. I'm not ready to die. How can I stand for something but still be fighting for my life? I need a second chance, God. This can't be the end of my time. I've tried it my way and it's landed me here. I want to try this faith road where it's only you that I fear. I want to follow your guidance this time. Please draw near me. I ain't got much fight left and I'm starting to feel weary. I'll conquer my fears and have your power flowing through me. I'll hold my hands up high and say, God, you can use me. I'll finish what I started and I'll be more positive. I promise it. I'll steer kids off this path and be the role model they need. I'll create a new arc and I'll empower their dreams. I didn't fulfill my purpose, man. How was I so blind? This bad boy image leads to nothing but pain. I feel so empty inside, so cold. All the things I could have achieved with my abilities and all the beautiful places I'll never get to see. I just need one more chance to make you proud, Heavenly Father. Give me that second chance. Please.
Every single day I gotta say a prayer. I don't even know what can happen later. Used to be that brother with that attitude.
After I got stabbed, I was rushed to hospital, and on the way there, my mum jumped in an ambulance and was praying and Lord, save my son. And basically, when she left the ambulance, I kind of had this almost very surreal conversation with God, and I said, if I get another chance to live my life, I'll turn it around. I'll do some inspirational projects, and I'll make sure that young people are steered away from the negative ways that I went.
Young king had to stop playing games. I'ma see what I'm on. Yeah, it's no biggie, take a bacon up for lunch. We be back in the day, I had to give him an art. He's better back before I try and set him up. I'm just trying to love my neighbor. What are you talking about, bro? So tell him man, we cool. I don't want to fight, y'all. I got demons for ops. This beef is.
Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you. Even watching back, I'm so grateful to be here, to still have the ability to share my story and to be an example for generations coming after me, and for parents whose children are probably going, or I say probably, maybe going through some of the things that I went through, nieces, nephews, just as an example, that you can get out of it, you can turn your life around, and life can be bright. So I just wanted to bring it into reality. So obviously that was an actor playing me, but this is what I looked like after I got stabbed. These are some of the pictures. I was stabbed 7 times in that incident, and it was slightly different to what happened in the film, but still as intense. And I'm blessed to be here. The doctor said everywhere I got stabbed, I should be dead or disabled. I got stabbed in my head, in my arm, or under my arm, sorry, in my leg, my arms all over. And yeah, I'm as I said, I'm blessed to be here, and I don't take opportunities like this for granted. And I don't know who needs to hear what I'm saying today, but I hope that something resonates and that lives are changed from this short interaction. And I always say life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you. And as you can probably see from the movie, there were small choices that I made and things that happened to me that led me down a particular path. And I take full ownership over a lot of the choices that I made. I know that there were secondary things that were happening in and around my life, but at the end of the day, I made decisions to do these things and didn't have enough resilience in myself in order to say no and not to go down those paths. And so it's my life mission now to help young people build that resilience and to empower them to make better choices. So that film that you watched just there came out last year in January. It was released on the 13th of January, and we had a full process to go through in order to make it. We were crowdfunding the movie, so I was going around and I was basically selling myself to all these different audiences, and I'm doing this, can you give us some money? And it was quite disheartening, I can't lie. We had to really speak to a lot of different people. I also had to cancel the original premiere 2 days before because of technical issues. So it was just loads of different headache, and there was many times that I thought to myself, you know what, this isn't going to happen. But when it did happen, we released it, and in the first 4 days we had 1 million views on YouTube, which is a massive achievement. And a lot of it was young people and their parents or teachers or professionals sharing it and just saying, you need to watch this film. And then the child saying, I've seen it already. And then it just being shared in WhatsApp groups and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And again, I don't take it for granted. That's a blessing. Films come out and get 10,000 views, but we were able to really galvanize a lot of support. And since then, it's actually been viewed just under 3 million times in just over a year. And I want to make part 2. I'm going to make part 2, not I want to. I'm going to make part 2 and maybe part 3. And this is definitely the start of my movie career. And it's something that I guess will now be embedded into everything that I do. The idea of creating content that really inspires and changes thought processes, because I think that art is is a massive opportunity and medium in order to change perspectives and change narratives and start conversations as we are doing here today. And as I said, Javan, who played me in the movie, is doing really, really well right now. He's actually out in the States doing, he's playing Cyborg in the DC. I've actually got Netflix. It's not on Netflix, I think it's on the DC Universe or Amazon, I think it's on. But Doom Patrol, he's doing really well. He's got a big leading role. That's me in Atlanta out, I think a couple of years ago, going to visit him. And I'm super proud of him because, you know, for us to be London boys and to have that kind of opportunity to go out and kind of live the dream of being a Hollywood actor, I always love to big him up, because if it wasn't for him really portraying my film and believing in the vision, it would only be a smaller but still impactful project, but it was able to kind of get to another level. So what am I doing now? So you might have remembered I mentioned before about being expelled from my school. So this is me back at the school that expelled me. They said, you can never come back. You know, we're not interested in you coming back onto the premises or whatever. And I was invited back, and I was able to share my story with a group of young people and basically tell them my mistakes. And one of the things that I did when I was in school is I stole my deputy head teacher's wallet, or my principal's wallet, for the Americans in the audience. And yeah, it was stupid. And I actually went and bought 50 Cent's album. So it shows you where my mindset was at. And he was actually in the auditorium at the time. And when I said that story, he kind of like was quite embarrassed because the audience started laughing. Oh, you stole his wallet. And I took the moment to apologize. I looked him in his eye and I said, sir, do you know what? I'm really sorry for stealing your wallet. Can you forgive me? And he said, yeah, I do forgive you. I know we make mistakes as young people, and I'm happy to see that you've turned your life around. So that's one of my kind of proudest moments growing up, you know, to be able to show my teacher who had written me off that I was doing well, and to apologize publicly. It's a blessing. Last year, I was able to win a number of awards for the work that I do and for the short film. Some of them are behind me. And I say, you know, I don't do this for the awards, but they are nice. And awards are much better than detentions or getting arrested or making my parents disappointed. That picture that you can see there is me getting an award where my family had actually surprised me. They planned it with the award ceremony organizers, and I was getting ready to leave, and they were sitting in the back of the auditorium. And then this lady got on stage and started talking about this amazing sounding person that was doing great work. And then they played a video, and it was like, oh my goodness, that's me they're talking about. And again, it's a very humble moment to be able to be celebrated by my family and peers and people that I've looked up to for the work that I started to do and will continue to do. I've also been invited to 10 Downing Street, which is where the Prime Minister is in the UK. And yeah, when I go there, when I have been there, it's been to represent as a champion for young people, or to have conversations with I guess advisors around the PM. And you know, I remember calling my grandma and saying, Grandma, I've been to 10 Downing Street, and she lives in Jamaica. And she was just like, I'm so proud of you. Well done, son. I'm so proud of you. And it's those things that, you know, when I talk about my dad being you know, someone that he came here when he was 7 years old. My grandparents immigrated over here for a better life. And I'm able to continue the legacy of hard work and integrity and all the different family values that my family have given me. This is what means a lot to me, you know. And I also left school with no GCSEs, so that's the equivalent of, I think, SATs, or maybe I'm wrong there, but basically I didn't pass my key exams to get into college and then university. I just kind of gave up and didn't try. But I was still very active in business as I got older, as you can probably see from the film. So I decided that I wanted to right that wrong, and I'd begun to do night courses and really try and learn about business management. And in the end, I was able to graduate with a business management qualification. And again, you know, proud moment. It's me righting the wrongs and kind of going back over some of the mistakes that I'd made and not letting them define me, not letting them stop me from moving forward. And finally, as you would have seen in the movie, there was a young lady that, you know, really had a positive impact in my life and begun to show me what it was like to be in love and to be valued. And, you know, when you meet someone like that, you've got to give them the ring, right? So we got married a couple of years ago in 2018 in the Caribbean. So that's not superimposed. That is actually us on rocks by the sea. And that's my queen. That's my best friend. And we've been together since we were about 18. It's not been an easy ride, but we continue to ride and grow together and support each other on this journey. Now, I wanted to talk about some of the things that I'm doing in terms of in the community or as a positive role model, I guess. So in London, the mayor of London does a lot of different projects around knife crime, around youth voice, around policy, all these different things. And I was blessed enough to be able to have my face as part of his campaign. So last year, my face was all over the London Underground system for his campaign, London Needs You Alive. And it was, again, a very proud moment to have my face on the tubes, on the wall, and people would sending me selfies and pictures and saying, when I saw you in the morning, you really encouraged me. I see in your face, I know what you've gone through, and your smile was really helping me. And that to me, again, is just a positive representation of what being your true self can do. And as you can see on the right-hand side, that's me with the mayor of London and my family as well. And I always love showing this picture because we've been through a lot as a family. We've been through storms. We've hated each other at times. Well, not hated each other, that's a strong word, but we've disliked each other at times. But we love each other so much, and I'm so proud of the graft that my parents put in order to give me the foundations that I have now and the principles. And I know that there's times that they might look back and say, I wish I'd done that differently and wish this had been done differently. But fundamentally, I don't blame them because they did their best. And they gave me and my sister a great example, and they're still together. We never saw them argue. And one of the things that really stood out from this moment was when the mayor said, you should be really proud of your son because he's saving lives. And to hear for my parents to hear that from where we've come from and the things that we've been through as a family, again, I don't take it for granted. So I'm going to begin to wrap up now as I start to get towards the Q&A point. So I hope everyone's starting to think about some of the questions that you might want to ask after Mustafa and Olivia are going to basically have a conversation with me. This is my youth organization, Aviard Inspires. Aviard is a compound of two words, which is aviation and hard. It's all about elevating your mind from where you are right now and going hard at your dreams. So you can check out our website there and get some more information and get in touch. When I am in London, and hopefully soon I'll be in the US when coronavirus has begun to subside slightly, I do programs, I do assemblies, I do workshops, and I'd love to come out and visit some of your programs. I am also, I was going to share some feedback, but I think it's important to allow these things to naturally kind of be heard. But you can read some of the stuff that's on here, and it's just essentially about the feelings that this young person had when I went into school. And I think it's always important again to hear it firsthand. But this is just an example of what happens when I come into school. And finally, one of my favorite sayings is, if your mind can go there, your body can follow. And I live by that. I live by that. I live by the idea that if you can conceive something in your mind and you can work hard at it, then near enough anything's possible. So I hope I've encouraged you with my story. Thank you for listening. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter. My email's there as well. And I just want to thank Mustafa and Olivia for for linking up. We've been planning this for a couple of, about a month or so now. And we finally got here. So I look forward to the conversation and hope that there's some gems that you guys can take away. God bless.
Yeah. Thank you. This was really, really powerful, Amani. I want to thank you for, first of all, for being the person you are, and being able to share that with us and the universe. I'm just going to jump right in with some questions. In youth development, we talk about one of the needs of young people being, closest with at least one lasting relationship with an adult. And in the film, you kind of mention and you talk about, your mentorship. You talk about the guidance you got to help bring it. How really important was that in terms of your turnaround? How important was that relationship? What was it that actually made you say, okay, I need to go into another direction?
So it was meeting a relatable role model. His name was Fusion, and it was when I came off the roads. I went to college, and he looked at me and he basically just said, "Whatever you've done prior to walking into my classroom, I'm not going to judge you on that. I'm just going to take you on your hard work." And he gave me a fresh slate, and I wasn't with any of the people that knew me from school, so my reputation was able to be kind of revamped. So I think it's super important to have great role models and mentors, because especially if they've got lived experience and they're relatable, it's so like they help you to progress at speed. It's very, very key.
Olivia?
Yes. So I have another question. So we're all gathered here as positive youth development advocates. And so it's very common that in the field of youth development, people are always referencing positive youth development. But it's also important to remember that even when a young person is presenting negatively or embodying, I guess, negative attributes, that they have still reached certain developmental outcomes. For instance, if a young person is in a gang or if they are hanging with the wrong crowd, they've still achieved some form of belonging and membership. So my question for you is, when you did decide to actively step forward and change your life around, did you find that there were already positive characteristics that you possessed prior to that decision?
Yeah, I think they were just masked underneath it. So when I was growing up, as I said, in primary school, like there was a lot of things that my parents embedded in my life that were beginning to just get deteriorated by life and school and stuff. So by the time I was older, I didn't know I could do a lot of this stuff. I didn't know I was organized. I didn't know that I could communicate with anybody. I didn't know these things, and I had to then go and work from 16 to develop these things and keep moving towards the best version of myself. So I think it's really it's integral for early intervention for young people to have people that come in and show them their skill sets and allow them to develop those things, because I think that once you begin to hone in on your skills, you can really start to make great progress and start to live your best life.
Mm.
I think one of the things that's really important to point out is that even with having strong and parents that give you that solid foundation, that the other adults, teachers and the other environments that young people are in, I think another reason this film is so important is it shows that they have a role as well in terms of providing that atmosphere. Because when you were in school, you were saying, I just need that one person, I just need someone, to basically have my back. So I think it's important, comment on the importance of the teachers and the other folks that environments that you were in, being able to provide the same kind of support.
Yeah, I wish my teachers had some of the training that like what you guys are doing in terms of youth development, because I think the kind of generation I grew up in, they weren't as actively looking at kind of the adverse childhood experiences that a child might have, or looking past the behavior at what might actually be causing it. And so I think that I was really let down by the school system. Not to say that it was necessarily their fault, but I think it's just the culture that was embedded at the time. I would say that obviously not all teachers were negative, but I wasn't also ready at the time to. Maybe there was good teachers, but I wasn't ready to engage with them. They could have been trying to help me, and I've just shut down and put all teachers within a particular kind of category. So I think there's a bit of both. I think it depends on the school system and the school kind of culture to help develop a young person in a particular way. But the young person also has to be ready for change and willing to put in the work and the effort and make the sacrifice to develop themselves as well.
Yeah, definitely. I have another youth development question. We're the youth development people, so we do want to help put things into context and also make education fun and entertaining. So in youth development, we find that spirituality and self-awareness is related. They could go hand in hand. In fact, the developmental outcome of self-awareness and spirituality is defined as a perception that one is unique and is intimately attached to extended families, cultural groups, which you mentioned, communities, higher deities, and or principles. So with that being said, how did your spiritual conversations directly impact your self-awareness and ability to reflect and assess?
Man, it's a great question. And yeah, I think as I've got older, I've really begun to understand kind of my purpose a lot more. And as a Christian, you know, I obviously try and follow Christ in all my just the love that Christ embodied on the earth. And you know, I think as I've got older, I've become more aligned with that. I think, you know, when you're younger, you maybe religion is a bit more kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to church on Sunday, or my mum's telling me to pray, this is long. But I've kind of developed myself to kind of build my own relationship and to really see what God's saying to me and kind of allowing me to kind of make positive choices on a day-to-day basis, because I'm trying to play my position on this earth. I think one of the things that I really live for now is, you know, I don't know when I'm going to go, but when I do go, I want to know that I've done everything that I can with the two hands that he's given me and the abilities that he's given me. So I think that it's a lifelong journey. I never sit here and try and preach to anybody. I just try and play my position and love people as Christ would have loved. That's the way I see it.
I think it's important also to put your experience in what we call the youth developmental framework, so that people can actually see that it's not necessarily just luck and it's not just fate, but there's some very, very specific things in your story which are informative for young people who do want to turn their lives around, who do want to do better, who do want to be successful. And those components are that you had assets, you had capacities, you had strengths that were instilled in you. Then you were given, you know, the opportunity. When you had that mentor, you had the supports, you had the information, you found out what you needed to do to set up your business. And then when you took those talents and those skills or those strengths and you'd applied it to those supports and you did that thing, that opportunity, then you got that developmental outcome of self-awareness and success. So I'm mentioning that to say for young people that are out there, how important is it, based on your experience, how important is it for them to tap into and recognize what their strengths are and how to build on those strengths in order to reach that outcome that they want?
Yeah, super important, and really it should be one of the kind of core curriculum subjects in the school, I think, you know, to help young people to discover those strengths and to have a strength-based approach to dealing with young people, an asset-based approach, because, you know, I think there's this really kind of focus on deficits. We need to improve you here, we need to improve you there, but, you know, there's not enough focus on what are you really good at. And I think if someone had really helped me to see that, okay, actually, Amani, you've got certain skills that you're not really using and you're trying to be like other people, then I think that would have helped me to make better choices. Of course, again, it still determines, I still have to make the choice, but I think just that awareness would have kind of given me an option. And I don't feel like I had many options growing up, to be honest. Yeah.
I think this is now where we move into the segment where we take some questions from other attendees that may be here. I think Mustafa and I have asked enough questions. Mustafa and I are usually long-winded, but we do want to make sure that we open it up for audience members to ask any questions. So please feel free to use the comments or the chat and just say anything that you may want to say. And we can just continue the conversation as questions come in.
I just wanted to take this time and just say thank you, everyone that's been watching. I'm seeing the comments and you know, I really appreciate it, because sharing my story, again, a part of me always leaves me when I share my story, is energy. So I appreciate the kind of energy exchange you guys spend in the last hour or so just kind of listening to me. And as I said earlier, I hope that something has embedded itself and it will allow you to, you know, go on your journey with more empowerment. So thank you.
And I do have a quick question for any young people who may be watching, because they may want to do something just like this. So can you tell, I know you hinted towards crowdfunding and things of that nature, but can you kind of tell the story of how this film came to be for any young person who may want to do something like this and following your footsteps?
Yeah, of course. So the process for me, like, I think you have to, again, make a definite decision that this is what you want to do, especially if you're telling your own story. Because, as I said, it's quite draining. And there's a lot of things that will come out with you trying to present an authentic version of your story. And me and my family had to go through particular conversations that were quite difficult to have. But I'm glad that we did, because it helped to develop our story. So if you're not ready to have that kind of conversation and that internal reflection, this is probably not the thing to do. I'll be honest, because especially young people ask some really direct questions, and you can't just say, no, I'm not answering that, because you then miss a teachable moment. So I think that was the first thing I had to go through, that internal reflection and acknowledge that this is something that I want to do. And then it was about getting masters around the process. It's getting a people that know what they're doing. I've never made a film before, so I went and spoke to people that did know how to make films, and they were really good at it. And that kind of helped the process to happen quite smoothly. The issue that we had, which is the biggest issue, is that we didn't have money up front. So I would always encourage anybody that wants to do films or any type of creative project, try and secure the money up front, whether that be from savings, whether that be from family, crowdfunding, whatever, because it takes pressure off you. Like, I would never want to do another film where we haven't got the money secured already, because going around and literally selling yourself to try and get the money is soul sucking, but it's part of the process we had to go through. And then on top of that, when it comes to promotion, it's about, again, speaking to the experts, speaking to those that are able to push it into the right spaces. We had some great platforms that got behind it. We were on the news over here, BBC News, some of the other national news platforms, and that helped us to galvanize a lot of attention. And so you really got to have a strategy. It can't just be, I'm just going to put it out on a Tuesday and hope people watch it. We really planned it, and by the grace of God, it worked. So yeah, that's what I would say. I don't know if there's anything I've missed out, but I think that's like a very summarized version of what we went through.
I think another thing that makes it really important what you've done, Amani, is that your background. I mean, there are a lot of people who are watching, who do not necessarily come from money, who grew up in the hood, and the idea that you can do this, that anyone can do this, is what comes across. Speak to that. You're not a millionaire. You're not. You come from the same background, and yet, you weren't. That didn't hinder you. Your story itself actually is what was the fuel. So speak to that, because a lot of folks think you got to have this, you got to be this, you got to be the other in order to be successful.
Yeah, no, you've hit on a real key point. Yeah, we're not from money. This is a struggle. I say this is a struggle. This journey can be a struggle at times, because the thing that fuels your ambition is your dream. It's the possibilities of what could happen. And I'm a calculated risk taker. I'm a risk taker that kind of looks at even that smallest possibility that it might happen, and I calculate it and I run trying to make it happen. So I think for anybody that's got a dream or an ambition, you really you've got to structure it. You can't just kind of do it off the whim. Like, it's got to be something that you say, do you know what, actually, like, I really want to do this thing, and I'm willing to speak to experts, and I'm willing to kind of plan this out. And then once you've got all of those things, it's about then saying, are you willing to make the right sacrifices in order to make it happen? We've all got 86,400 seconds in a day. That's equivalent of 24 hours. And for me, it's how do we use it? We look at people and we say, oh, that person's successful, that person's doing this, that person's, they've always got the opportunities. But if you look at how they use their day, 9 times out of 10, you can work out why they're getting all the opportunities. It's not just luck, it's preparing. Success is when opportunity meets preparation. And so, yeah, I would always say prepare, and then it will kind of help you to achieve success. I can see a question here. What key 3 things would you tell your younger self? I would say, it's a really good question. I would say to my younger self, number 1, it's going to be all right, Amani. It's going to be okay. I think there was many times where I was quite introspective and and thinking about, you know, the mistakes that I was making, because that was what was being highlighted. But I think I just needed that encouragement that actually, you know, one day it's going to kind of level itself out. You're going to, the smart choices that you're making, the small ones that you're making every day are going to compound and multiply into something that, you know, is going to allow you to live a beautiful life. And yeah, that's what I would really highlight. Another thing I would say is choose your friends wisely. Definitely. I'm sure my mum, if she's still watching, would definitely say that as well. You know, because it's something that is just kind of on repeat in many households. And I didn't really get it before. You have to choose your friends wisely. You have to think about the people that you've got around you and if they're adding or taking away from your life. And finally, mind your own business, because that got me into a lot of trouble when I was younger. Got me into a lot of trouble. It's one of the reasons I got stabbed, because I shouldn't have even asked anybody any questions that day. That wasn't the reason I went out of my house, and I should have just minded my own business and stayed in my lane. And as I like to say, stay in your lane and drink your water. So yeah, I just mind your business, and by that, just focus on trying to become the best version of yourself, Amani. Yeah, good question though. Cool. I see another one here. How do we make educating young people and how their life decisions now impact their future in an engaging way? How do we impact their future in an engaging way? Okay, so I want to be known for this thing called edutainment. I think it's imperative that this generation is entertained at the same time as being educated. I'm not saying it has to be in everything, but I think that it's underused right now. It's not really something that people have mastered, in my opinion, and especially for a lot of the kind of popular culture. So it's something that I'm working on personally, because I think that we have to use all the resources available in order to reach young people. The same way we now know different learning styles for young people. Some people learn by hearing or watching or doing. Is the same way we have to think about the fact that not all young people are just going to engage with a teacher speaking at the front of the classroom. So we have to use media, we have to use experiences and enrichment and all of these different things in order to help young people to, you know, become engaged in learning. And also, I think it's got to be relatable. I think especially like history, I don't know what it's like in the States, but over here, history is very whitewashed, and young people can't relate to that, because especially Black people, they can't relate to that because it's not a full picture. And so I think especially around what's been happening with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, there's a lot of conversations around really trying to revamp the curriculum and make it a lot more kind of world history. And so it's all of these different things that I think would definitely help to engage young people in a more positive way.
Yeah, I would add to that as well that because there's earlier comment about systemic racism, that it is important for young people also to look at where they are in their lives and context with what's going on in the world, as you mentioned. And also, just in terms of educating young people, if we kind of engage young people in looking at the impact of their present decisions as well, and not just the future, because oftentimes we're saying, think about how it's going to impact the future, but there are ways that we can engage young people in looking at what they're doing right now, because their lives are important right now, and how we engage and involve them right now, which is clearly an example of what you've done with your work.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I can see another question here just sliding back through. Where is it? I lost it. Would you say that a lack of identity and belonging attributed to your choices at the time? I would definitely say that. I would say that I didn't know who I was. And actually, you know, the reason why I named my presentation Finding Amani is because at the end of my story, and now as an adult, I found peace, I found strength, I found aspiration, I found myself. And when I was growing up in school, I had all of these different nicknames for myself, whether it be Armani, like Giorgio Armani, which wasn't what my parents called me, which was a mask, it was a fake character, or my street name, which was Havoc. That's completely the polar opposite to peace. So that's an identity issue, right? If my parents have called me Peace and I'm now calling myself Havoc, there's something there that isn't really working from my perspective. So yeah, I would definitely say that contributed to, you know, the choices that I made. I can see one from David out in California. Big up David. he was speaking about during the pandemic, young people are coping in unhealthy ways like gang activity and drugs. What advice would you give when their world feels like it's closing in? Man, I think, and I'm not an expert in this in any way, but I would say when you're looking at gang activity, it's usually, you know, a cry for attention. Maybe it's you know, that need for inclusion. And I think it's important for positive role models like yourself, David, who work with them to I guess press in even more, to be even more visible. I know that the coronavirus and the pandemic has meant that everything's gone online and not all young people have access to internet and stuff like that. And so there's a few slipping through the cracks. But as soon as we are available to do it again, we've got to be out there and be present. We've got to be, you know, pushing even harder to reach these young people, because outside on the flip side of this coronavirus pandemic, it's going to be, you know, a lot of kind of making up for lost time. 6 months of young people having no kind of meaningful engagement with positive role models a lot of the time. So we've got a lot of work to do. So that's what I would say. I would say from your perspective, that's what you've got to do. And then from a young person's perspective, they've got to engage with the services that are willing to help them. As I said, I always say there's a choice.
I would say that when you don't include young people or any people in matters of importance, they create their own. And so the way that we raise young people and teach young people, we kind of keep them in the background, away from the big things in life that actually matter in terms of financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and things of that nature. We're starting to include them now more, that people are starting to embrace the principles of youth development. But when you have an entire group of young people who traditionally have not been included in matters of importance, the whole stay in a child's place, be seen and not heard, when something actually really happens, when we actually need their engagement and we actually need them to be plugged in to ensure that not only they are safe, that others are safe, they haven't really had any practice at doing so. And so it's kind of like this sort of like being upset with someone who is used to playing house in a little Fisher Price kitchen, and now we're expecting you to cook Thanksgiving meal. So it's very important to understand, and I think this COVID-19 is teaching us that we actually fail when we hold power over young people and we don't include them in matters of importance. And even just to speak to when we talk about racial oppression and things of that nature, we're starting to see that when you have a history of keeping any group of people, Black and brown people, out of matters of importance, now that the world actually needs that brilliance, that innovation, the things that we bring to the table, well, now you have to climb through and bust through all of your barriers that you've been setting up for centuries on centuries, so that you can now include them when things matter. And so I think it's very important to keep that in mind with young people. It's not that they are incapable of being serious. It's that they're not expected to be serious, and people will either rise or fall to your expectations.
Right. So what's next, Amani?
Oh, what's next?
Yes.
That's a good question. Well, I've already got an invite from David to go to LA, so I'm down for that. I'll come and speak to the school districts and do some Zoom assemblies. I'm down. But I'm working on some cool projects. One of them is a project with the Mayor of London. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to release a awareness campaign called You've Got This. And it's going to be about motivation. It's going to be about trying to galvanize young people as they get ready to go back into school. And, you know, we're hoping that begins to send ripples amongst youth culture. There's also a really cool project I'm working on with a high profile individual to set up a foundation. Can't really share too much about it right now, but yeah, that's next. I'm going to be leading on a project on that. And so I look forward to the world hearing more about that. And yeah, just more learning, you know, as a human being, fundamentally, like I'm learning more about myself every day and trying to develop, learning more about young people, learning more about those that are around me, my friends, my family. So just trying to learning more about my creator, all of these different things. I just wanted to, before we wrap up, I just noticed that there's 2 questions here that I kind of want to just quickly answer because I really liked them, if you guys don't mind. So the first one was from Tayo, and she mentioned about how do I go about educating young people on how their life decisions now impact their future in an engaging way. I think that it's by example. You know, young people need relatable role models to come into their environments and say, I walked the same paths as you. I felt what you felt. I made mistakes. This is honest. This is real. I think when you come from that angle, and it's not just as you guys were saying before, it's not just kind of speaking at them, and children should be seen and not heard, and you engage them in conversation, then you can really break down barriers. I've seen many hard kind of faced young people open up and tell me some deep stuff because I've been open and, you know, honest with them. So that's what I would say. And the final question from Sister Kenya Sue, sorry. She said, what 3 things would you say to your younger self as a mentor that's going through difficult crossroads? I think one of them I've already answered in terms of that, things that you struggled with. I think that's important, you know, to kind of break down that barrier. It's important to talk about the things that you have overcome and the things that you wish you'd done better. I think it's about pathway, again, back to what I said before about strengths. It's about finding the strengths that they have or helping them to find the strengths that they've got, and then pathwaying them to opportunities. And I would also say, if possible, it's about trying to get support for their families as well. It's about trying to engage their families in conversations, because I always use the analogy, like if a child is a plant, right, and you at school are pouring water on them and trying to give them development and help them, and they go home and someone pours Coke on them because that's the environment that they're in, then you're kind of going up against an impossible feat. So I think it's important also to engage the families and the support networks and the peers around that child, and just try and get that all-round holistic support for that individual. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think this is the first of a couple, right? We're going to do this a few more times. This is fun. This is fun.
Yes, I hope so.
Most definitely.
Yeah, this was fun.
Topic can be found across the pond in these our emails and ways to contact us are below. And as of right now, most of our youth development learning opportunities are done virtually and free. That's actually how we met Amani and started to conceptualize this event. So I hope that we can continue to convene and have these conversations. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy that we were able to work with you all to make this happen.
Yeah, agreed.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys.